Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome.
Welcome, everyone.
Okay, before we get started, I have an icebreaker question for you guys. What is your hidden talent? And you can put your response in the chat option at the bottom of your screen. What is your hidden talent? I'm curious to know what some of your hidden talents are. I don't think I have one.
Everyone has one, Angie.
Oh, Andrea, I am seeing your
Oh,
Zoom,
thank you.
um,
Thank you. I did
your
slide it
Zoom on
over
top.
there. Thank you.
Hiking, that sounds fun, Joseph. Quilting, yes, I've done that. Trip planner, you can plan the rest of my trips. Race
What?
car driver.
Race car driver. Mike goes fast.
Okay, good hidden talents, everyone. All right, well, we're going to get started. Thank you all for attending. And as you know, we are recording this webinar. Today we have with us Andrea Hall. She is one of our customer success managers here at Innovia, and she's going to be presenting on efficient collaboration with Copilot in Teams meetings. As always, we love participation. Please ask your questions in the Q&A box, and you can find that at the bottom of your screen. So type any questions that you have in that Q&A box, and we'll get those addressed definitely at the end of our webinar. And Andrea, take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited that you are here. I have my camera on so you can see that I'm live and this is happening, although I am going to turn it off as I juggle all my screens. I'm happy that you're here. And I'm so excited to be talking about Copilot in Teams. So as Angie said, I'm a customer success manager here at Innovia, and I love that we are doing this Coffee and Copilot series, and I'm glad that you're here as we continue to learn. Copilot is still relatively new, and there is so much to share and learn from each other about how we're all using it. So I am an eager Copilot user and learner. I use it every single day. I'm about 6 months into using it, 5 or 6 months. And I'm at the point now where I'm gaining 3 to 5 hours every single week because Copilot is helping me do something faster, better. And then I can put that time into other valuable work. So I'm super excited. And I continue to learn like the rest of us because things keep evolving and people keep coming up with new ways to leverage Copilot to help us do what we do every day. I will share before we get into it, one of the biggest challenges I found as a personal user learning to use Copilot is in the beginning, people would say, oh, Copilot can do tons of things, but it was almost too hard to imagine without some examples to get me going. So part of the goal of today's session is to really show you where Copilot shows up in Teams, but to also feed you a bunch of examples that you can use or be inspired by, because just sort of it can do anything is too broad. So I'm excited about the examples we're going to share, and maybe at the end, some of you will also share some of your ideas. So if you aren't using Teams in your organization, let's definitely talk afterwards because it is a fantastic collaboration and productivity tool. So today we're going to talk about how when we layer Copilot into Teams, the productivity gains can be even greater, very, very impactful. So some foundational information is, two of the biggest ways that people are using AI is to help do sort of the repetitive, manual, drudgery kind of work. Why not let AI or Copilot do tasks for you so you can use your time on more valuable activities? The second way people are using AI and Copilot is to help, I say, make me smarter, help boost insights, show and reveal trends, or surface information faster or better than might be able to do. It sort of is a complement to my brain and the way I'm thinking about things. And we're going to see that today in Teams. So like anything with Copilot, remember you're the pilot. This is Copilot, not autopilot. So anything that Copilot is doing, you want to give it a sanity check as you're ultimately responsible when you use this tool. We've also learned that we can share feedback with Copilot. So the thumbs up, thumbs down when it's providing information for us will help it learn our style and how we're asking questions and how accurate it's getting for what we were seeking. So that's really helpful. I also want to make sure you know that when you're using Copilot in a meeting in Teams or in the chat in Teams, no one else can see that conversation. That's entirely between you and your assistant Copilot. So you can feel free to ask it the things that you want to ask it, and that's not going to be revealed to others. And as we know, and we've been learning in this series, that any security or permissions that your organization already has established, Copilot is going to follow those guidelines. So if you can't normally get to it based on security and permissions, then Copilot is not going to help you get at it either. So those are some foundations. So as we go into Teams, here's Teams. So to start off with, Copilot simply exists in Teams. So everything you've been learning from Trish, Mary, Alan through this whole Copilot series applies here. So you can see that you can access Copilot in the chat area of Teams. And down at the bottom of the screen is where you can put in your prompt. So you can have it draft communication for you, search for Teams messages, or summarize emails, or anything that we've been learning that we want to do with Copilot, you can do right here in Teams, which is nice. You don't have to, if you're already in Teams working, you don't have to jump somewhere else to interact with Copilot. And what I love is because it's still new and we're learning the endless ways that we can leverage Copilot, Microsoft, I think, is doing a great job by helping us continue to see real life examples. So here you can see on the screen, there's 6 boxes there with ideas. And at first I'd be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. So it's great. So really watch out for those. Take a second and read them. But also watch for where I have the little red arrow there. Sometimes it's the icon, sometimes it's also has the words where it says view prompts. And that actually, if you click on it, will open a whole nother screen that has more and more real life examples of the ways that you can prompt Copilot to assist you. So I just want to, if you're one of those people that is like, how should I use this? Or I keep using it just one way, take 30 seconds and read these additional suggested ways to use it. And I bet you're going to be wowed with what you see, and you'll quickly be incorporating them. So this is just basic Copilot in Teams. Specifically, we want to do a deeper dive on meetings. So it's especially helpful when you're hosting a meeting, because oftentimes you're hosting, you're trying to sort of coordinate the people that are talking, and you're working through the agenda. Oftentimes you're doing most of the presenting, and it's really difficult for you to also take notes. Well, let's let Copilot do that for us. It's also really great for your participants of a meeting because they don't have to worry about taking notes, because Copilot's going to do that for us. It's going to take notes, identify the actions and owners, and much more. And we're going to see more examples of that. But when your participants don't have to be scrambling and taking notes, they can be better engaged and more focused on the conversation that you're having, which is really valuable. And then what I like to say, let it boost your thinking, is it has access to the real-time transcript of the meeting as it's happening. So you can ask it questions that will help you maximize the discussion you're having, maybe, feed in ideas that will make it an even more quality or robust discussion. And again, these seem like lofty things right now, but we're going to show you some real examples where you can take advantage of it. Because this last bullet here, it lets you ask for the assistance that you'd like. Well, right now that might be overwhelming to imagine what you'd like. So we're going to show you. So let me go into a brief demonstration and we will show you what this starts to look like. So here I am, I'm at my desktop, and we're going to be playing the part of Lee, and we're going to open up Teams. And in the calendar section here, we can see that we have a meeting. So we're going to go ahead and join that meeting. And this meeting started a while ago and we're late. Well, let's go ahead and join. And what's great is Copilot recognizes that we're tardy. And what might normally happen at this point is we would interrupt everyone else who's in the meeting. We would stop the discussion and they would try and get us up to speed. Well, we don't have to cause that disruption and we don't have to waste everyone's time. It's simply saying, would you like a recap so far? I sure do. So I can now be subtle and not disruptive. And over here, it's launched the Copilot window. And here it is. Oh my gosh, it's broken down exactly the topics that have been discussed so far. This is fantastic. So I'm very quickly up to speed. And I actually want to jump into the conversation. So anytime there's a prompt, it kind of understands what's happening. In context, it's giving you, these are prompts you might want to use right now. So suggest follow-up questions to the topics that have already been discussed. That would be great. That would help me a lot really jump into this meeting. So I can see real time, it's looking through the transcript, and it's now based on the conversation that's been had, it's suggesting questions that I can ask, and it's pointing out who I want to direct these questions to based on who was sharing the information before I joined the call. So this is really helpful. Let's see. I can also, sorry, that's examples of like real time. I didn't have to disrupt the group and I can interact. Now I can continue to think of other topics that I might want to know, real time during the call. So we're having discussions, but say it's getting close to the end of the call. I can say, list the action items that have been discussed on this call as well. Oops. We'll come back to that. I apologize. We'll hop out of this real time in the meeting and we'll go over here to our chat. So the meeting has happened and you probably have seen, if you're a Teams user, you get a chat that tells you that the recording is now available. Well, if you go up to the recap section for the meeting that we just had, or maybe the meeting happened yesterday, we have access to the AI generated notes. What's great is it will tell you anytime that you were mentioned, and then the real-time transcript. So the AI notes, we can see, here are the notes. So I didn't have to, none of us as participants had to take the time to write out the notes. They're available here. The at mentions is fantastic because maybe I actually was either late to the call or I missed the call completely. I can go back and see anytime someone said my name, well, I certainly want to know what they were talking about. And then I can also review the whole transcript of the call. So we can see that here. So this is all generated for you. But additionally, if I go up to Copilot here, this is now where I can go back to interacting with Copilot about this meeting. So there's a section here that says, ask me anything about this meeting. So this is where, when I say it's like any assist that I want. So in this case, I say, what decisions were made during this meeting? It could be that I attended the meeting. In fact, maybe I was hosting the meeting, and I want this to help me produce a recap that I can send out to everyone after the fact. I didn't have to take these notes. They're all automatically here for me. And if you've been using Copilot at all, you're familiar that it actually has these footnotes. So in this case, anytime it lists something with a footnote, you can click and hover on that and it will show you exactly in the transcript where this piece of information came from if you want to do a little further digging. So we can go ahead and see that. I was starting to say, list the action items real time in the meeting. You can do it real time. You certainly can do it after the fact as well. So what's beautiful is it not only lists the action items, but it's really clear on who the owners are for each of these action items. which is very helpful. So I will go ahead and close this demo. And basically, we could see some simple examples of real time, how it saved you time and didn't waste your colleagues' time by getting you up to speed. It can help you with questions during the meeting. What questions should I be asking? Where I started to ask, what action items have been identified on this call so far? So if I'm the host with 5 minutes left of the call, I could ask Copilot for that, and it would give me an easy tool to do an effective wrap up. Okay, team, we talked that Sally would do step number 1 and Bob is going to do step number 2. So that's really helpful. And after the meeting, we can see that it can generate notes, action items, and a lot more examples we're going to talk about in a second, which is again helpful if you are the host. You can simply capture those and share them after the fact, and if you're a participant. What I think is incredibly, incredibly valuable now is especially if you missed the call. So if you were out of the office, if you missed an hour call in the past, you would have to find another hour sometime to sit down and listen to the recording. But now you can get a lot more information very quickly. Another thing to think about is if say you're the manager and you don't attend all of your team's weekly meetings, but you want to know what's going on with the team. So you can go in after the fact. If say you were sort of always an optional attendee, you can go in after the fact and ask in real time, ask Copilot, what were the action items? Were there any challenging parts of the discussion? And see exactly what was going on. You might be a sponsor of a project and want a quick recap of the most recent status call. You might be, say, a sales or a service manager, and you want to know how the call went between your rep and the customer. You don't have to sit in on the call, but you could go in after the fact and find out in 5 minutes exactly the key elements and points that you wanted to know about it. So I think this is pretty spectacular saving of time, getting people meaningful information faster. So this, like any assistance you want, let's try and give you some ideas on that. So one thing that we're learning with Copilot prompts is not only can you ask it for information, but it's really great that you can suggest or ask for the format that you want. So one thing you might do in a meeting is to ask it to create a table of participants in their roles. So, wow, I hadn't thought of asking for a table as a format. This screenshot here is an example of a decision that was made. You could say, about the decision, share with me the pros and cons in a table, and look how easily that is organized. One, it makes it very easy for me to read that and immediately understand what was discussed. But this is also a great format that I might copy and paste and put in some sort of recap document as well. Let's see. Around decisions, so you simply could ask it what decisions were made during the meeting. This is where I think Copilot becomes even smarter than I originally anticipated. You could ask it, was it an easy decision to delay the project? And it will give you snippets of what people said where you could kind of see if it was easy or difficult. This example here listing pros and cons. You could even ask it who held what position on the matter that was discussed. And you will be able to see that Sally was very much in favor and Peter had concerns. In fact, you could even ask Copilot, what did Peter discuss on this call? And it would come back and say, Peter discussed these 3 topics. And again, with that footnote, you have an easy way to get into the transcript to see more of any particular part of the discussion if you want. Again, imagining there was a call with a customer, you could ask, were there any points where someone was upset or had negative feelings or comments? This I thought was really interesting. You might suggest that, maybe it's a coaching opportunity and you say, list the attendees in order of the % of words spoken. Wow. you can immediately see if someone was dominating the conversation, and depending on their role, maybe they should have been speaking a lot, but maybe that person was a little overbearing and it's a coaching opportunity. Or maybe you see that Jessica was very quiet. You might follow up with her afterwards and say, I noticed you didn't speak much in that meeting. I just want to make sure you're okay with what was discussed. So this is beyond just seeing bullets of a meeting and a recap. These are insights that can drive you towards actions that deliver value to the work that you're doing with your colleagues. I also, this last bullet here, any of the kinds of information that you want, ask Copilot for, but even consider asking it to do it in the format of an email so that it becomes very easy to copy and paste into your email. In probably less than 4 minutes, you have your meeting recap completely done for you with the assistance of Copilot. So you as a host, you as a participant, and anyone who wasn't able to join the meeting or who was sort of on the periphery, but wants to really understand what happened in the meeting. So I think it's incredibly powerful. I have 2 bonus items for you. So in Teams, there's a feature called Live Polls, and Copilot can actually help you you can ask Copilot to create the poll, what you want the question to be, if you want there to be options, and it will help you do that much faster on the fly. That will help you get real-time feedback from the group so that, again, you can sort of continue on with a more effective conversation during your meeting. There's also, Teams has a Q&A feature. So it's very similar to chat, but it allows moderation so that you can determine what comments or questions are published to the larger audience. But when you layer Copilot in, it actually can provide real-time responses based on previous questions asked or the transcripts in the meeting. Wow, that's amazing. So it's getting people answers even faster than you could provide them. It can filter out inappropriate or irrelevant questions, and afterwards it can provide a summary of the questions and answers that were asked that might be meaningful after the meeting as well. So a couple bonus areas if you're sort of a Teams meeting super user. It might give you some ideas on things you want to pursue. So additionally, I want to say that besides focusing on Copilot in Teams meetings, don't forget that Copilot overall can help us be super savvy, powerful meeting masters. So using Copilot to create or streamline your agenda definitely can help. You might ask Copilot, what's a great icebreaker for colleagues that are meeting for the first time? Copilot, what's an interactive exercise for brainstorming new ad campaign ideas? So it can really boost your preparation for your meetings. We know that Copilot's in PowerPoint, so you might share with Copilot next year's strategic goals for your organization and ask it to create the slide deck for you. Wow, what a way to set yourself up for a meeting success. And again, so we know it can be used in Excel. You might ask for analysis that gives you some talking points or questions that you want to bring up in your meeting. And again, this sort of like boost your knowledge. Imagine, I always think like when I'm sitting in a meeting and having discussion, every once in a while I might want to phone a friend, or I wish I could kind of lean over and ask someone. But maybe real time in a meeting, you bring up Copilot and you, based on the conversation you're having, you're like, yeah, Copilot, what are the key trends in the oil and gas industry this year? Boop, 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 boop. Copilot gives you this information so you can be that much more informed for the meeting and the discussion that you're having with your colleagues. So that is kind of some highlights of Copilot in Teams meetings, and then also how Copilot in general can help you become exceptionally productive and efficient with your meetings as a host, as a participant, and someone who's sitting alongside meetings to know exactly what's going on in your organization. So that is what I wanted to share with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have as well, or I'd love to hear any ideas on how you've been using Copilot.
Thank you, Andrea. We do have a couple of questions that have come through. If anybody has any additional, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box and we'll get them addressed. The first one asked is, does the Copilot icon in Teams require a separate license, or is it supposed to be included in all Teams?
That is a great question, and someone can correct me if I have this wrong, but I believe the answer is it's an additional license, and it's the Copilot for M365 license. So it's the same license that makes it available in Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Teams.
Correct.
Okay. And the next one is the meeting recap only available for meetings that are recorded?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. And I strongly believe the answer is yes. So I believe that the meeting has to be recorded, which is additionally going to enable transcripts. And I know that some organizations, not every employee has a Teams license or a Copilot license. And I believe the person who initiates the recording needs to have the Copilot license.
You just to clarify, you can transcribe but not record and still get a recap.
Thank you, Trish. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Then another question is, I have found that Copilot for Office 365 online does not provide as reliable results as Copilot inside of Teams. Just giving
Wow.
feedback.
Okay. Fascinating. A colleague and I, Angie and I, another colleague and I, we were talking about doing some tests, asking the same question in a couple different areas to kind of evaluate what we got. I haven't had any experience with that. I think that's really interesting that you're finding that. I don't know if anyone else on the call has experienced that or has thoughts on that. Because I guess it would be something to look out for. And if that trend continues, I guess you would, sort of consider where you would want to launch your questions as well. I think there could also be an aspect where Microsoft is continually developing and evolving Copilot along with all its other tools. So if you're observing that, I wonder if over the next few months you will see an improvement across all the areas where Copilot is showing up.
I have found that when I looked at something in Teams, I've opened up Copilot in Teams and searched for something versus doing it online, 365 online. Sometimes it won't give me an answer that I want. It'll say that it cannot provide me with that
Oh.
answer. So I switched to web and it did the same thing, that it couldn't provide me with that
Oh.
information.
That's interesting. It does remind me, Angie, that in the demo that we just saw, the little demonstration, when we were in a live Teams meeting and we had Copilot over on the side, I can ask it questions about the meeting because it's basically using the transcript as its data source. But in the real-time meeting, I wanted to be able to ask it, what's the top most selling soda in the US? Say that was something we were discussing in the meeting. It can't provide me the answer there because that point of Copilot is focused on the transcript of this meeting.
Correct.
To your point, if I go to somewhere else, a more general use of Copilot, like in the browser, then it opens up to have exposure to a lot more data set for that answer. So that might be something to consider is the context in which you're using Copilot. And, we often don't think of the underlying data that it's using, but that could impact the answers it's able to provide.
And I'll just throw this out. I was just testing just to see what it would give me. But I was in Excel and I turned on Copilot and I asked a question that was not related to Excel,
Mhm.
and it said the same thing that it couldn't provide me with the results.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's, you know, we're starting to learn that Copilot is immensely powerful. I think we have to remember that it, in many cases, is in context of a tool that we're using at the time. And I love that you said you were testing it. So I think we all really should challenge ourselves to put our adventure hat on and try. You really can't break anything. Security has you protected. Your prompts aren't shared. It's a safe space to explore, challenge it, see what it can do, and you might just find some surprises that will benefit you in your daily work.
A comment, a feedback. I find that it will occur when I am not part of an email, Teams, meeting, etc. It usually will not be able to pull the information, even
Mm.
for my teams, my reports. Only will I receive results on their actions, emails, tasks, etc. if I'm included in the tasks, emails, events, or meetings.
That's a really helpful comment too. And I will say, so even in the context of today, what we were sharing, the benefits of Copilot around a meeting are for invitees of the meeting. So if I knew that three of my colleagues had a meeting last week, but I wasn't invited, I'm not able to go and find that meeting and kind of peer into it, if you will, using Copilot. So that's where I think you can consider, like, maybe you invite people as optional, or I think the tools might even extend into the future as to how that will work. But um, they, at least in some places I know, like a meeting, you have to be an invited participant to benefit from Copilot on meetings. So maybe this comment is relevant to that as well. If you're not part of something, Copilot can't sort of use that as a source for you.
And one more comment, and then we'll start wrapping up. Um, I try to use this as a summary of my team for the week, but it only provides results regarding the items that I'm included in.
Oh, okay. And I think that's relevant to what we're saying. Like, if you aren't on 5 of the meetings your team is having, that's probably not gonna come into the summary for Copilot for you. I don't know the answer to this. It'd be interesting to test, or if someone else knows the answer. I wonder if the future of Copilot will extend to, like, Teams channels and so forth, where there is a defined group of people. So whether you are on the meeting or not, if it pertained to a team or a channel, if maybe that's going to extend some of Copilot's abilities in the future. So I think
I feel,
while, oh, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, I feel like Copilot's your Copilot, right? So it can tell
Mm,
me what I'm doing, but not what my team
mm.
is doing, unless I'm part of those meetings,
I think that's a great
right?
point. Yeah,
So,
I think that's a great point. And I
Yeah.
think, even if we're finding, um, we wish Copilot would do more. I think we're simultaneously finding that Copilot can wow us with what it can do. And the fact that this is sort of what I consider still the tip of the iceberg for Copilot, I'm really excited about what's going to continue to come in the future.
also, I've been
Okay.
looking at the chat. David Brown's been putting some really fun ideas in the chat of different ways you can use Teams and Copilot. So just everybody make sure you take a read through that too.
I'll share
Awesome.
the
Thanks.
chat with everyone too, the chat and the Q&A, so that way you can kind of see what was um, what was talked about and the feedback that people shared.
Awesome. Thanks for being so engaged, everyone. I can't wait to go back and read it as well. I'm going to learn something.
All right, well, I think that's all the questions that we have. Let me just double check. Um, yes, this is only established in the Teams channel calendar versus the normal Outlook calendar. Somebody put a comment about
Okay.
where it's established at. Okay, well, Thank you everyone for joining. And as Andrea stated, thank you all for being so engaged and voicing um, your solutions, what you found, your feedback from using Copilot. And we just welcome you to continue to bring your feedback to us and share your ideas and what you found. And Andrea, do you have any last minute words you want to say before we finish?
I just want to thank everyone for being here today, and I hope you continue with the Coffee and Copilot series. It's been really successful, and we're all learning together.
Great. Thank you everyone again for joining us. I did put a link in the chat for you to go back and view any of the previous Copilot webinars. And if you haven't registered for any of our other upcoming webinars, we have our resources page. I put that link in the chat too for you to go ahead and read any of our resources and sign up for any of our future webinars or workshops that we have. So as always, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you soon at another Inovia webinar. Take care, everyone. Thanks, Andrea.